The conversation of your life. Local, relevant, digital, and always on.
America will hear my 2 cents.
Elected to serve iHub radio listeners across the desert cities. He calls it as he sees it.
Quick question.
Now, here's Russ Betts.
Someone answer him now!
Okay, welcome to the Russ Betts Show. Good to have you with us. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. We got a chance to end out at least our broadcast week. There's some great programming comes up on iHub Radio throughout the weekend. And if you go to iHubRadio.com, that's the easiest link to everything here at the station. And there's some real great programming over the weekend, so you want to stay on. But for the Russ Betts Show, we do this 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, starting at 3. And, well, here we are. It's Friday, and we're back at it again. And, we're going to get right into this. We got a guest with us here today. It's a special guest. And normally we maybe take a little while to do an intro, but I'm just going to say hello right away. With us today, joining us today in the studio, is newly elected Mission Springs Water District Director Steve Grasha. Steve, welcome to the Russ Betts Show.
Well, thank you, Russ. Thanks for asking me to be here. It's a real honor to be here today, for sure.
Now, I got that right, that you are newly elected to the Mission Springs Water District.
You new in turn, I got elected November 6th, and I was sworn in the middle of December, and I've attended now 3 meetings, so we're talking about 3 months.
So I'm batting 1,000. I got that one right. You're a sharp guy. I got to be careful here. There's not many details that you seem to miss. You're pretty in tune with paying attention to detail out there. You're not just around the edges.
During the campaign, they were forcing me to pay attention to things I didn't want to pay attention. I only wanted to talk about the issues I wanted to talk about, and what they did to combat the effectiveness of my campaign was to throw issues out that had actually no interest in water policy at all. We had candidates talking about anything but, hey, they raised water rates for the last, 6 years in a row, but we're not going to talk about that because we're going to talk about this completely nonsensical thing that has nothing to do with the Mission Springs Water District. And the voters caught on to that very early on. They knew what was happening, and that's why their campaign...
Well, they call that campaign mud, right? It got a little dirty in that election.
Very, very ugly. One lady sent, she spent thousands, probably $8,000 to send out a piece of mail calling me a creep, and I don't know, so there was another word thrown in there with it that I thought, I'm sitting at home, I'm reading this, I'm thinking, a creep? Lady, I've lived here 40 years. The voters know who they're, know Steve Grasha. It's not like I'm some guy Martian that just dropped out of the sky. And this woman who served on the board since Ronald Reagan, literally, I beat her. I'm the first person ever to have defeated Nancy Wright in an election since Ronald Reagan was president. And she's saying, well, the only way you were able to accomplish that is because more people voted. And I'm thinking, what kind of an idiot are you? How does a person get reelected over and over again with that kind of logic?
I was just going to say that, but that's all in the campaign. The campaign's over, and now it's time for kumbaya, right?
Right. The problem is they won't get off of that. They just keep talking about it. The guy keeps coming up that I beat.
Well, haven't you had some board meetings already?
Yeah, 3 board meetings, and at every meeting it starts off with some guy, the guy that I had never met him. I'd never seen him in my life other than a few pictures on the internet. I know him more intimately than I probably would like to. But it turns out that he keeps denying things that were said during the campaign. He keeps wanting to come to each meeting and make sure everybody knows that he's not.
Well, I was at the last Mission Springs Water District meeting. It was like all the roads out of Desert Hot Springs were closed, so I couldn't make it across the freeway to get down here. We had to do a best of show here for a Russ Betts Show because they're on it. Their meetings are at 3:00 in the afternoon. So I got a chance to go there, and I saw somebody you're talking about. I said, well, wasn't the election over? And so that was like three meetings ago that the election was over, and that stuff's still going on. You're going through that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, what's coming up at the Water District? I mean, it's not all just past election now. There's got to be stuff you're digging into, you're sinking your teeth into, stuff you see you want to get done. That's what voters put you there for.
That's right. I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of studying, everything I can get my hands on. It's a 4-year term. And a couple of the issues that I promised to pay attention to, there's been a little movement. I felt a little bit of ice break on the big issue that people in the Mission Springs Water District sent me there to kind of dig into, and of course that's the price of services. And I heard one director at the first meeting, I almost felt like I had just gotten a haircut. I sat down, he sat next to me, he said, well, there's been a lot of talk about the need to look at water, the possibility of lowering water rates, or at least the last year. And I thought, there we go. We're off to the races on some of the real important issues.
Let me explain that for our listeners. Is for the Mission Springs Water District voted to put in 5 consecutive years of rate increases, and we are now in the 4th year of those rate increases, and each and every year the rates have gone up, and they've gone up significantly. And I think the next rate increase is one of the bigger ones. This one was a little softer in the amount that went up, but the next one's scheduled to be even bigger. And I know the question came up during the campaign, and Nancy Wright at the Candidates Forum at Vista, Montana, said that, we'd be willing to look at possibly not implementing that last increase. So you think you see some movement on that happening?
There's some possibilities, but here's the trap. There's a trap there. And that is the way elections fall. And I hate to bring politics into this, but this woman is, she's a slick operator. She will drag you up onto the gallows, put a rope around your neck, kick the chair out from under you, and tell you to have a nice day as she turns around and walks away. What I'm saying is that she's willing to talk about it now and maybe implement something before the next election, which she has 3 of her friends that are sitting on that board up for re-election in 2 years. So my guess is that they're going to find a way to reduce rates just before the next election, so that 2 years down the road she'll say, oh goodness, we can't do that, we've got to raise the rates again. Her people get re-elected. Now I'm out there too with 2 people up for re-election, me and one of the other board members, and then she'll raise the rates again 21%, and now I have to go out and argue 4 years from now that it wasn't me that raised your rates. They're going to get a great big rate increase just before the next election, and they're going to hang it on me.
Let me ask you.
So that's the politics of water in Desert Hot Springs.
Well, I don't have all those other directors here. I got you.
Right.
Where do you stand on the next rate increase that's scheduled to go into effect? Are you in favor of voting to put that rate increase in advance?
I absolutely am. It's what I campaigned on. I talked about both of them. They're throwing off so much cash over in that district that they're funding lawsuits that they can't even explain what the real motive behind the lawsuit is, other than a lawyer has had almost $1 million worth of transactions in the budget just for his little law firm. A guy, you could argue that if you can't explain it to me why you need to bill the poorest people in California $95,000 in legal fees for 1 month. And you can't tell me what it is that you're going to accomplish for those people, but you're going to get out of town before 9 o'clock every night or before 5 o'clock every night, get back across the freeway to your big fancy house in Rancho Mirage, and laugh at the poorest people in the country living in Desert Hot Springs for ripping them off for all of this money. And that's what's happening. We got lawyers suing lawyers from water districts outside, lawyers outside, both of them. Neither one of them come from Desert Hot Springs. They don't represent the needs of the people at Desert Hot Springs. And in my view, it's a big deal, and takes a good hard look. And I don't think the folks that are paying the bill, they come in struggling off the street. They walk up to that 6 inches of bulletproof thick glass to pay their bill. They peel off those dollar bills. And there's a guy out in the back parking lot running out the back, a lawyer, running back to Rancho Mirage with all the cash that those poor folks are having to peel off to pay their water bill. It's a tough way to be. And,
all right, so
they got one guy in there at least looking after him a little bit.
Okay, well, I want to stick to this rate increase. We'll get up on all that in a minute. But the question is, you got one, and I'm counting votes here. That's what I do. I count votes. So is there any other board member that's similar, that agrees with you. And we had Nancy Wright said it during the election. I don't know if she's going to stay true to her word, but do you see anybody else out there? Is there any movement of anybody that's willing to hold off that last year of the rate increase?
Maybe. I don't want to say, I don't want to speak for another director because, I can go pretty far out there, and I don't want to have to bring them with me and then have them have to say, I didn't say that. But let's just say that there's some light at the end of the tunnel for the likely possibility of a reduction in water rates for the folks in the Mission Springs Water District. I think about a 21%. That would be the last year. If the last year rate increase is eliminated, that's you could argue that's a 21% decrease in water prices, and I suspect that that's what'll happen. It'll happen just before the next election. They'll campaign and call themselves victors for the little guy.
Well, that's not 21% reduction.
I know, but that's
foregoing
what they're going to say. And low information ratepayers, they're going to get something in the mail from the three directors that are up for election in 2 years. That's going to say I cut your rates by 21%, and then 2 years later I'm up for re-election, and they're going to send out a rate increase just to cut my head off because I beat their friend in the last election. That's what's coming. That's what I've got to prepare the voters for in the Mission Springs Water District. They are going to work every angle they can to get their guy back on this district board, and you want to watch out for these people. They're slippery operators.
Okay, now let's shift gears a little bit here. There's all kinds of internet rumors that go around out there. I mean, you hear these things, these tales that are spun about the water district or city council, everything else. I mean, I see that. I sit on the city council in Desert Hot Springs, right. And you see this stuff come at you, and it's understandable. Some people just aren't informed, and there's some people out there that just spread these rumors, and I don't know where they come up with them, or they just make them up. But one of them I heard was that the directors actually paid themselves a per diem to be in the Christmas parade. I mean, they didn't pay themselves to be in the Christmas parade, did they?
At the first meeting, there were some people in the audience looking at me, and their mouths were literally hanging open because at my first meeting, it almost sounded like I was advocating for a pay increase for directors. Folks, my first month as a board member, I averaged my income averaged $50 a week, $50 a week pay for being on the board my first month as a director. So I was arguing that we shouldn't be forced to attend Chamber of Commerce functions in Cathedral City to be able to do our jobs for the people of Desert Hot Springs and Mission Springs Water District, and that's what's happening. What we've got is in the case of the Christmas parade, they voted. This was before I was on the board. They voted to give themselves $100 to ride on probably on the back of a convertible.
Wait. Two things. Hold that thought.
All right.
I thought it was a rumor, but I got to get to a break.
It's true. I read it.
Well, hold on.
I read it in the minutes.
We got to pay some bills around here. We'll get back to that one. $100 to ride in a parade. I got to hear that one.
That's right.
Okay, we're back in a moment. We're here with Mission Springs Water District newly elected Director Steve Grasha having a calm conversation about Mission Springs Water District, and we were talking about the rumors, the crazy rumors that get spread about, things that people say that you think, well, that can't possibly be true. And one of them I'd heard is that the directors had actually paid themselves $100 to ride in the float in the parade. I know as council members, we can go on the parade every year. We don't. So you're telling me that that's actually true? That's not just an internet rumor?
It's true. I read it in the minutes from, I believe, in the November minutes. It may have been October. I believe it was November. Could have been the December meeting. I'm not sure because that would have been the meeting before Christmas. But it was there, $100. To be fair to the board, to the other directors, although they did vote for it, I think only one or two of the directors actually showed up to the parade. I'm not 100%. I didn't go because, too many people were out to assassinate the new director. So I just basically begged off, that's just,
what you're telling me is somebody shows up, gets on the water district float, they ride in the parade, and they get $100.
They get $100.
The rest of us, they're waving for free.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
okay.
that smart guys run for the water board, and the rest of you guys run for the city council.
I'm gonna. Hey, it's long been mentioned that the perks at the.
I got $50 a week.
All right. I'm going to look into that one a little further. That sounds so odd to me that I don't have a reason to doubt you. But would you see it in the minutes or something?
Yeah, it's in the minutes, and I think it's in the December meeting.
I'm going to look it up when I get home tonight.
I think it was December 8th. I think the meeting was December 8th because I wasn't going to be sworn in until like December 12th. And then because I was afraid to go down to the water district because the election was so ugly, I avoided going to the water district office until sometime in January, as I recall.
All right. Well, now I'm not just a talk show host with you here. I'm a water district customer, so now I'm going to talk to you about something. In fact, I told you I showed up at one of the meetings and I spoke at the public meeting, and I brought up a 2012 grand jury report. And it was a civil grand jury, not a criminal grand jury, just to make sure we set that record straight. But they had some recommendations for Mission Springs Water District and a few other water districts.
Right.
And one of them was they shouldn't be holding their meetings at 3 p.m. when people who are largely in a working class community can't make it to the meetings. And the grand jury specifically said that the meeting should start at 6 p.m. Why don't the meetings start at 6 p.m.? If you had a grand jury recommend that way back in 2012, why aren't the meetings held at 6 p.m. so people can be there to participate?
This is not the first time this has been brought up, and I've given it some thought, and this is going to... I have researched what you said. Everything you said is exactly the way it's written in the grand jury report. I would support what you're talking about. My inclination is that it would end up not bringing any new faces to the board meetings.
Okay, but what irritated me...
Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to say, hey, let's do it on a trial basis, and if more people indeed show up, listen, it's going to cost money. Staff is going to have to get paid overtime to stay after the 5 o'clock hour. We start meeting at 3.
We don't pay our staff overtime.
Yeah, well, it's probably in their contracts, and I'll bet you, and I don't know...
get some type of comp time. You late in the meeting, come in late, something like that.
My guess is that keeping staff after 5 o'clock is probably the reason they started doing it. And, the water business, until I came along, was pretty boring stuff.
Well, let me say
nobody's coming down there to throw arrows except at me now.
Well, here's what irritated me was during the election, every election, somebody says, well, you don't even show up at the meeting, so how could you possibly be a legitimate candidate to run for the board? They said that about every challenge that's come along.
And I specifically didn't show up because I did not want to them.
Okay, but if the meeting's at 3 o'clock when people are working and they can't show up, so here you are chastising potential candidates for not showing up at the meetings, but you're holding meetings at a time when it's hard for people to get there. So let's go to the second recommendation of the grand jury, which is to videotape the meetings and put the video online, or at least the audio.
Well, now, I tend to agree with that it serves the public to have this stuff out there like that. Here's the problem with that. You've got people that are more concerned about their vanity. God, they're going to look fat in their suit. They're going to sit down. Now we got to worry about the lighting in the building.
You know what? Wait a minute. I hear that all the time as a council member. And I'm going to tell you something. When you're up there and you're focused on the issues, you do not think about that camera that's out there. You're not even aware of it.
After a while, that might be true. But I worked for Sonny Bono when he first got elected. I ran for city council in Palm Springs in 1988. The same year Sonny was first elected. I ended up going to work for Sonny. I ended up working for him up until 1994 when he was elected to Congress. I managed his campaign for Congress up until. And so I have some experience in this arena. There was no cable broadcast of the city council meetings in Palm Springs until Sonny got elected. Then it became a kind of people wanted to go down there. They wanted to say, get in there and kind of follow the showbiz swagger that Sonny brought to the city council. So what happened was Fred Ebling, who's passed away, a friend of mine, gosh, what a great guy he was. He used to go down there with his video camera before Sonny got elected. He would go to every meeting, would videotape every meeting with his big old Betamax camera, and then he would take them. Finish this after the break, and we'll pick it up. It's a real important piece of history.
I got it.
And you've got to understand why it's important that we let Nancy get the lighting just right, so she got her
Okay,
makeup
I got one thing to tell you, and then
You
one
don't
thing
care
to
whether
ask
Nancy looks good
No.
in an afterglow shot.
What I
or
got
not.
to tell you is this music comes on a minute early, and I've been trying to get it to come on 30 seconds early, but I haven't won that battle. And the second thing is, can you stay after the break?
Yeah, I don't know what time it is, but I sure can.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to finish our conversation here, or continue our conversation with Steve Grasha, Director of Mission Springs Water District, and we're back with more in just a bit.
The conversation of your life. Local, relevant, digital, and always on.
America will hear my 2 cents.
Elected to serve iHub radio listeners across the desert cities. He calls it as he sees it.
Quick question.
Now, here's Russ Betts.
Someone answer him now!
And welcome back to the Russ Betts Show. We're here with Steve Grasha. He's a newly elected director of the Mission Springs Water District, and we're having a conversation about, well, everything Mission Springs Water District. Nice, quiet, calm conversation. I think it's going well. Happy to have you here. Put your microphone on. You said you were a little apprehensive about having those microphones on during the recording of the meetings.
You got to clean up the salty language, and
Well, we didn't have the microphones on during the break, so nobody heard any of that.
You're missing out the real good part of the radio show. Folks,
I
between the breaks.
I told the board op, who's the producer who's usually in here with me, I said, we should just leave these microphones on during the break, record this, and replay it. It's some of the best conversation going. All right, so now if I want to, I know they record the meetings. Every meeting is audio recorded, and I know because I've put in a public information request and very quickly and promptly gotten the copy of the audio recording, but it could just as easily be put up on the website, right?
Yeah, it could. I don't know if that would have a kind of a chilling effect on, well, not on the other board members. They're kind of pretty well, they're pretty safe about the things they talk about. I go off into the weeds, as you can tell by the last 2 segments here. I'll argue with anybody. Come on, let's get going. Let's argue. And even if I'm not even arguing the side of the issue that I would rather be arguing, I'll argue anything with anyone. Sometimes it's kind of ugly. So if that's just available every week, I would have to tighten up my my thoughts and comments too. That wouldn't really be a good service to the people that elected me, because they kind of sent me there to be their middle finger.
Yeah, but we can't hear you because we want to hear what you're saying.
The problem, there's a real big plus to that, but the problem is when you start freewheeling, you start throwing around a lot of stuff that you don't want to cut into little pieces and throwing back at you. Did you really say Scott was? Okay,
well, let me tell you. So when Russ decides he's got an idea that's something that's worthwhile, when I decide, hey, this is something to be done, I can very easily accomplish what the rest of the board may not want to accomplish. I can make sure that your meetings, at least the audio, is put up on the internet. I'll do that tonight. I'll go take the last audio I got, and it'll be up on YouTube, and everybody can listen to it. I'll just put a static picture of the board, so everybody can, I'll even put them in nice little suit and ties, get their best campaign photographs and put them there, and play the audio, because I got it.
I'd be for that. Video is a tough thing because, as you get older, you don't look so great no matter what you do. And the lighting in those buildings is built. That building was built in the 50s. Those was where I was going earlier. I was saying, we had to spend over $1 million to get the building reconstructed where Sonny's.
Well, you heard what happened, didn't you?
They elected a transvestite. Nobody cares now.
No, you heard what happened with the Mission Springs Water District had a flood in their boardroom, so they got all in their boardroom. It looks nice. They did a good job.
Yeah, for a little water district, they do a pretty good job. I pick on them a lot, and there's one guy, I'd almost want to put him in a headlock sometimes. I think I did once, but they're on the production side of that agency, they are hitting it out of the park every single day, all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The water always works.
And when there's a break, they're there. I'll tell you what.
All of that stuff. You know what? They deserve credit for that they're not getting, and even for me. And I try to do that in the meetings. They think I'm schizophrenic because I'm on one guy, I'm wanting to beat him in the head, and the other guy, I want to kiss him, and they don't know what Steve's they're going to get. They're just getting to know me.
The operations of Mission Springs Water District, and I have said this many, many times. It's like a well-oiled machine. If you got a line break, you call them, they're there. And you got this old debate, what side of the meter is it on? But they'll at least come shut off the water so that there isn't this waste of water going on. That part's working. And so, we've got some other things going on, though, with the...
politics and water, water's worth fighting over, and if you don't win the fight, it's worth killing over, and that's what's been going back since what,
Well, I got a former council member, Joe McKee, who would be killing me if I didn't ask you, when are you guys going to get the wastewater treatment facility down there at the I-10 in Indian? We need it down there to develop as a city, and you can't basically go put all the other development in until you do that. What's taking so long on that one?
Well, it's rolling along. They've,
we were told 2018.
I know the reports. I've been reading reports on that. The need for that going back into the probably the 90s for sure. We've had as many expansions. I think we're doing some improvement work now at the Horton plant. One more expansion maybe. The fact is, it's true. We need to step forward on the new plant down I-10 in Indian area, 20th and Indian. And I suspect that we'll be able to pull that off in the time necessary, for it to be just in time. And that's how these things work. Hardly ever too late. Hardly ever too soon.
There's been people who have property down there who for years wanted to put in hotels.
Well, you hear that, but there's no stopping them from building now.
Except they have nowhere to deal with the wastewater. They got to get one of those package plants.
Yeah, right. And we can accommodate that. And there's ways for us to accommodate that going forward for people that need to build. Right now, we can certainly accommodate that. But in the overall planning of the being able to provide that service to every property owner, every piece of property in the district, that's what we're working on. It's probably going to happen, certainly, and not, will it happen in my first term, 4 years? Probably not, but I bet you it happens in the first part of my second term if I'm reelected. My guess is probably in the... I can feel Arden, right now and grabbing the back of my neck and squeezing my head for talking out of sorts here on this stuff a little bit, but my impression is this is going to happen. Certainly, it has to happen, and it's going to move forward probably sooner rather than later.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see. You certainly want to be cognizant of the fact that the water district has gone in before and put in all kinds of infrastructure. I'm speaking out there on the west end of the city for two big developments that never happened. And now they have to actually go and take good water and use it to flush the sewer line just to keep everything functioning properly.
We're going to, I'm chairing the engineering committee. We're going to have some hearings on that. I talked to staff about it just last week. And probably over the next, probably 3 or 4 months, probably 6 months, I could almost dedicate two quarters to that, to studying where we're at, where we were, where we're at now, and where we're going on issues of production, or providing the best water in the world for the people of Mission Springs Water District, and that's going to be the focus going forward. For me as a director, and I know the other 4 directors as well. We're going to argue about a lot of stuff, but the need to do the work right and fast and efficiently is, I don't think, in question of any of the 5 directors that are serving now.
Okay, now there's some people in this world that name drop all the time, like maybe they were kind of sort of close to somebody famous, and you always wonder, did they really know them? And I've seen the pictures of you with Sonny Bono.
Yeah.
So you worked for him. Just tell me what was your relationship with Sonny Bono?
Well,
I wasn't trying to accuse you of.
Yeah, I know.
That's just an awkward segue.
I know. We were good friends. Sonny, where that statue is of him. In fact, I just realized this just the other day. There's a statue in downtown Palm Springs. I was in 1988. I had run for the city council in Palm Springs. It was the same year he was elected mayor. So when he was running for mayor, it was a big deal. So all the mayor forums were separate completely from city council forums because they didn't want us us low-level city council candidates hanging around with their media-savvy star, Sonny Bono. So, but he and I got to know each other during that campaign season. And then a few weeks after the campaign, I was literally sitting out in front of the Hyatt Hotel in downtown Palm Springs. I was basically sitting on the curb looking down at the gutter, wondering what I was going to do with my life. And I hear the horn honk, and I go look over to my right, and there's Sonny sitting in his brand new BMW. Hey, what are you doing? Meet me at City Hall. I want to talk to you about something. You know, I had just started my business. I was building building misting systems in Palm Springs very early on, and so I ended up going to work for him, and I had worked for a congressman down in Orange County in the early 80s, Congressman Bob Dornan, and when Sonny was mayor, I remember talking to him frequently. Hey, Sonny, you want to run for Congress? You should run for Congress. And we were going to run the same district as Ken Calvert's serving in now down in Corona. Anyway, that's a whole. We could go through the whole thing on that. It's a whole nother show, probably 3 or 4 shows. I was sitting at a meeting today. I was riding with Sonny back from Beverly Hills during the 92 Senate campaign, and I said, Sonny, you need a local issue. We need to tell people we're going to save the Salton Sea. So when we talk about saving the Salton Sea, that's where it started. Me and him sitting in his car, driving down the I-10 freeway, returning to Palm Springs. We didn't have a federal issue for a local mayor to run on, running for the United States Senate. That was the Senate campaign in 1992, and that's what started this whole push to save the Salton Sea. And today at the conference in Palm Springs, I heard the new manager of the agency that was created, starting out with from that conversation, turning into a federal agency. And today I heard him, the new director of it, talking about it. I sat there in the audience, had to keep my mouth shut. I wanted to raise my hand, say, you got a job because of me. So fascinating the way events turn and come and go and ebb and flow. It's fascinating stuff.
Well, we see people in their their show life, people like that. What was he like personally? Forget all the limelight, everything else. Tell me what something you knew about him.
He was
quirky.
The same off. He was the same at home as you would expect him to be. Or every time you'd see him on TV, he was the same way at home. There was a few things I could tell you about that, that you would never imagine. He would get up there's a young man in Cathedral City that had been diagnosed with cancer while Sonny was mayor, and something about him caught Sonny's eye, and Sonny would go to the hospital every morning. He was at Desert Hospital where Sonny's children were born. And every morning, Sonny would, I was working at the house. Our campaign office was in the guest house at Sonny's mansion in Palm Springs, and I basically, other than I didn't really live there, I was there all the time. And Sonny would, just after sunrise, would be coming home from the hospital after having been sitting with this boy in the hospital at Desert Hospital, literally dying of cancer. And you can go back and look at the history on that at Desert Sun articles and so forth. It never talked about that, but that's absolutely the way Sonny was. He really cared about people. He wasn't able to go do that stuff in the broad daylight because it attract a crowd, and people would try to take advantage of him and things like that. And I remember one time he told one guy, yeah, sure, come on over to the house sometime and tell me all about it. And that guy ended up coming over to the house one time, telling him all about it, and that's how we have now the Palm Springs Air Museum.
Why the heck did he run? I mean, he's famous star. He
moved to town. He opened a restaurant down on Indian, and he got a nice lease on this building, and he was he needed a little bit of an income, so he started his restaurant, which he had opened and had in West Hollywood. He got a good deal on it. He ended up selling that restaurant to the teachers union, one of the government unions. Teachers union, I believe, and he got about $3 million for this place from an original investment of about $30,000. So he did pretty well with it, and then went on to Congress right after that. So
I'd heard he was having trouble dealing with City Hall.
Yeah, he did. It was over the sign. They wouldn't let him put the sign up he wanted to in front of that restaurant. So he went down and and was complaining with the building department, and those are a pretty tough crowd, those bureaucrats, and a big star walks in and says, "Hey, I want to put up a new sign," and they're saying, "Get out of here, we don't care what you want, this is how we do it, this is the way we do things around here." And he wasn't having any part of it, so he said, "I'm going to run for mayor," and the rest is history. The worst mistake a politician can make is to be dismissive of the people that he comes across.
Yeah.
And that's something Sonny would never was. He would invite everybody over to the house for dinner. "Come on over to the house, we'll have dinner." And it was a shtick. It wasn't really shtick for him. He really meant it. But he would ask 10 people a day, "Come over sometime, we'll have dinner." You don't have that many days for a guy like Sonny.
But he had humility, huh?
Yeah, and he wanted to spend that quality time with everybody that he got to engage with, but it was physically impossible. You have 365 nights, and you can't tell 3,600 people to come over and have dinner.
Okay. I'm really appreciate you coming in here
You
today.
bet. It was fun.
And I'm sure we'll have many more conversations.
Yeah.
We're out of time. Okay, well, we certainly want to thank Mission Springs Water District Director, newly elected Director Steve Grasha, for coming into our studios today. Wow, what a whirlwind that was. Okay, we're going to... wow, if you needed to take a nap before that show, you don't need to now. I'm trying to calm down. He's very excited about the position, and well, we'll see what happens. I think it was a good segment. I got so busy that I forgot to even ask him about the greatest news out of Mission Springs Water District. People don't realize that when you go up to Desert Hot Springs and get tap water, it's actually better than the bottled water you buy in the store. And year after year after year for decades, Mission Springs Water District has come out either number 1, 2, or 3, or 4 as the best tasting municipal water in the world. And they just did the competition for 2019, and it's called Best Municipal Water 2019. Now, the winner this year was a place called Clearbrook, British Columbia, Canada. But number 2 was Hamilton, Victoria, Australia. Number 3 was Independence, Missouri. And 4th was Mission Springs Water District. And hey, 4th in the world's not bad.